ICE announcing Friday that Ian Andre Roberts is, quote, a criminal illegal alien from Ghana.
Federal agents have just executed what is being described as one of the most aggressive anti-cartel operations in New England history, and the shockwaves are already being felt across the United States tonight. At dawn, a massive joint task force of DEA and ICE agents, backed by local police and federal partners, swarmed multiple cartel safehouses, warehouses, and distribution hubs hidden in plain sight across Boston, Lawrence, Worcester, and several surrounding cities. This wasn't a symbolic bust. This was Storm, a coordinated strike that left cartel operatives scrambling as more than 200 suspects tied to the notorious Sinaloa cartel were taken into custody in less than a week. These aren't low-level street dealers. Officials are stressing these were mid to high-ranking members of a transnational drug and gun-running syndicate embedded deep into American neighborhoods. In total, agents seized more than 500 pounds of fentanyl, meth, and cocaine, enough lethal doses to kill millions, along with dozens of assault rifles, shotguns, handguns, and hundreds of thousands in bundled cash. For years, federal investigators have warned that New England was becoming a silent hub for cartel expansion, and now the evidence is undeniable. The arrests stretched across Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Connecticut, exposing how the cartel had quietly transformed Boston's backyard into a major trafficking pipeline. Lawrence, Massachusetts, already flagged as a hotspot in previous investigations, was confirmed once again as the operational epicenter. Safe houses disguised as family homes and warehouses camouflaged in industrial zones were raided in early morning operations that stunned neighbors who never suspected their streets were being used as cartel staging grounds. ICE officials revealed that cartel operatives were running distribution networks using encrypted apps, fake delivery services, and even major shipping companies to move product. With the tap of a phone, a package of counterfeit Adderall or oxycodone laced with fentanyl could be delivered to a teenager's doorstep. DEA Special Agent in Charge Jared Forget stood before tables stacked with bricks of narcotics, counterfeit pills, cash, and AR-15-style rifles, declaring that this crackdown is a direct hit to the Sinaloa cartel's infrastructure in the Northeast. He warned that the deadly pills seized, more than 22,000 of them, were packaged to look exactly like prescription medication, but most contained enough fentanyl to kill instantly. "I've been with the DEA for 20 years, Forget said. I cannot tell the difference between a real pharmaceutical-grade pill and what these cartels are pushing onto our kids. That should terrify every parent in America." The urgency is magnified by timing. With schools and colleges back in session, cartel distributors were deliberately marketing counterfeit Adderall and study drugs on social media platforms, targeting stressed-out students unaware of the dangers. ICE revealed that in encrypted chats, cartel dealers referred to this surge as back-to-school season, treating American children as customers. Beyond drugs, the raids uncovered a cache of firearms that included fully automatic rifles, high-capacity magazines, and weapons modified for illegal street use. Investigators believe these weapons were either destined for gang affiliates in Boston or being trafficked back to Mexico as part of the cartel's cross-border trade. The money seized, stacked bundles wrapped in rubber bands, amounted to hundreds of thousands in just this operation, but officials estimate millions more were funneled back into cartel coffers in recent months. What sets this operation apart is the scale and coordination. Federal agents described it as a synchronized strike that targeted the cartel's backbone, not just its street-level pushers. The raids unfolded simultaneously across multiple states, overwhelming cartel networks and cutting communication lines. Connecticut recorded 74 arrests, the highest in the region, while Massachusetts saw 82 and New Hampshire 44. Each state had active safe houses, showing just how deep the infiltration had become. In Franklin, New Hampshire, a major stash house yielded crates of methamphetamine packaged for distribution, while in western Massachusetts, agents uncovered a digital command center used by the cartel operatives to coordinate shipments across state lines. The DEA confirmed that the chemicals used to produce much of the seized fentanyl were originally sourced from China, funneled through Mexico, and mass-produced in clandestine labs before being pushed into American communities. This illustrates the global supply chain behind what might look like a single pill in a teenager's hand. Officials called the bust both a victory and a warning. Yes, over 200 cartel members are off the streets, but the fight is far from over. Cartels adapt, relocate, and rebuild with chilling speed. For the cartel, American deaths are collateral damage. Their only motive is profit. If a child overdoses, they don't care. If a shipment is seized, they adjust. That's why we need the public's vigilance and continued support. The communities rocked by this operation are only beginning to process the scale of what was happening around them. Parents in Lawrence and Boston suburbs are demanding answers about how their neighborhoods became cartel corridors. Law enforcement leaders are stressing that these arrests prevented untold overdoses and gun violence, potentially saving thousands of lives in New England alone. But the evidence on display, rainbow-colored fentanyl pills, military-grade rifles, counterfeit prescription bottles, paints a chilling picture of just how bold the cartel has become. One ICE agent told reporters, "This wasn't hiding in the shadows, this was hiding in plain sight, and it took hundreds of agents, weeks of coordination, and international intelligence to bring it down." Tonight, America is being warned. What happened in Boston's backyard is not an isolated case. The cartel's presence is nationwide, their operations as sophisticated as multinational corporations, and their willingness to target children through apps and delivery services is a direct threat to every household.
The raids are being called a decisive strike, but federal officials are careful to emphasize this is only one chapter in a much larger war. According to the DEA, the Sinaloa cartel has become so entrenched in the U.S. that nearly every state has an active distribution network tied back to their command structure in Mexico. What makes this bust extraordinary is not only the number of arrests, but the high-level targets that were captured. Many of those taken into custody were not expendable street pushers, but seasoned logisticians, coordinators, and financiers who managed shipments worth millions of dollars. Several were responsible for laundering cartel profits through businesses that appeared legitimate, from trucking companies to cleaning services. ICE investigators discovered that some of the seized businesses were operating as dual entities, legitimate services by day and trafficking conduits by night, masking the flow of both drugs and money. Officials say these arrests have not just removed dangerous individuals, but have interrupted the very mechanisms that allowed cartel products to pour into New England unchecked. Boston, long thought of as a financial and educational hub, was in reality being used as a central node for drug distribution. From here, fentanyl and meth shipments moved north to New Hampshire, west to Vermont, and south to Rhode Island and Connecticut. Cartel operatives were even experimenting with new maritime smuggling routes along the Massachusetts coastline, hiding shipments in fishing vessels and cargo containers. One container, seized at a Boston port facility, held more than 70 pounds of fentanyl disguised as flour shipments, destined for suburban distribution points. The use of maritime smuggling demonstrates a chilling adaptability. When highways are heavily monitored, the cartel turns to ports. When ports face scrutiny, they pivot to private aircraft. According to ICE, one aircraft seized during this operation was preparing to depart a private airfield in Connecticut, with both drugs and cash on board. The DEA stresses that this dynamic, ever-evolving strategy is why law enforcement must remain relentless. In addition to the narcotics and firearms, agents seized over 40 vehicles, many of them fitted with sophisticated hidden compartments designed to transport drugs undetected. Engineers working for the cartel had created hydraulic-powered trap doors inside cars, allowing smugglers to carry large quantities while evading cursory traffic stops. These compartments, nearly invisible to the naked eye, were one reason the cartel was able to move so much product across New England for years before this bust. Perhaps most disturbing is how deeply technology factored into this operation. Encrypted messaging apps, cryptocurrency payments, and dark web storefronts were all uncovered in the investigation. Agents revealed that cartel members were selling counterfeit pills, directly through encrypted channels, with advertisements tailored to young users. DEA cyber specialists displayed screenshots of menus where buyers could order study pills or party tabs as easily as ordering fast food, with options for delivery times and package drop-offs. The entire transaction could be completed without the buyer ever speaking to a dealer face-to-face. This digital sophistication means the cartel has evolved from a street-based operation into a modern tech-driven marketplace, targeting teenagers, professionals, and even veterans struggling with addiction. Parents are being urged tonight to monitor their children's online activity and be aware that even the most innocent-looking app can conceal deadly traps. The drugs seized in this operation were not just dangerous, they were deadly by design. Laboratory testing confirmed that many of the seized counterfeit pills contained more than 2 milligrams of fentanyl, considered a lethal dose. In one bag, agents found a batch where every single pill exceeded that threshold. Officials estimate that the 500 pounds of narcotics and 22,000 counterfeit pills taken off the streets could have caused tens of thousands of overdoses across the Northeast. Public health leaders are warning communities that the bust, while critical, does not erase the risk. Fentanyl is so potent, so pervasive, that even one shipment slipping through can lead to a spike in overdoses. ER rooms in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Connecticut are already overwhelmed by fentanyl-related incidents, with overdose calls to emergency services rising sharply in the past year. Families across the region are living in fear that a single mistake, a pill taken at a party, a counterfeit medication bought online, could mean sudden death. Law enforcement officials stressed that while the arrests cripple a major distribution ring, cartels are quick to adapt. Within weeks, new operatives may try to re-establish networks. That is why both DEA and ICE are calling this a long-term fight, one that requires not just federal crackdowns, but community awareness and resilience. Local police chiefs who partnered in the raids said this bust would have been impossible without international coordination. Intelligence flowed from Mexico, where cartel leaders continue to orchestrate shipments, and from Asia, where precursor chemicals are sourced. More than 20 international partners were involved, underscoring the global scope of what on the surface appears to be a local bust. The reality is that a pill sold in a Boston dorm room may have originated as raw chemical material in a Chinese factory, been processed into fentanyl in a Mexican superlab, and trafficked north through multiple states before landing in a student's hand. This interconnected chain highlights why the fight against cartels must be fought on multiple fronts simultaneously. Tonight, Boston residents are processing the shock that their city was ground zero for such a massive cartel presence. In neighborhoods like Lawrence, residents described waking up to the sound of helicopters, flashbangs, and tactical teams breaking through doors. Some spoke with relief, saying they had suspected for years that drug activity was rampant, but few imagined it was cartel-level operations embedded next door. Others expressed fear that the arrests might trigger retaliation, or that younger recruits would quickly step in to replace the arrested operatives. Officials acknowledge that the cartel's recruiting pipeline is aggressive, targeting vulnerable populations, including young people in immigrant communities, with promises of quick money. These recruits often become expendable pawns in a much larger game. Still, law enforcement leaders are standing firm, assuring residents that this bust represents a turning point in how aggressively cartels are being pursued in the Northeast. We will not allow New England to become a sanctuary for these organizations. This is our home, our communities, and we are taking them back.